Welcome to Your Vibrant Life podcast with me, Alison Stockton, the founder of Vibrant Balanced Health, health and wellness expert, and author of best-selling book, The Woman I Am Becoming. Thank you so much for joining on this podcast, where we will be sharing every week top tips, tricks, and inspiration of how you too can live your most vibrant life. Stepping into areas of personal development, self-love, self-appreciation, spirituality, and becoming the best version of yourself and living your most vibrant life. We're going to share with you steps and advice on health, spirituality, self-love, self-care, self-worth, and how to grow into the most incredible woman that you've always desired to be. This is a space for women to learn, to grow, and to live their healthiest, happiest life with women who are here ready to support you. We are so happy to welcome you here. And if you feel so called to, please do leave a comment at the end of the show to let us know that you've enjoyed it, share it with a friend or two, and inspire somebody today to live their best life and to learn to love the life that they live. We are so grateful for you being here, and we wish you the most incredible journey into living your most vibrant life. Okay, guys, I am so excited to have our next guest on the podcast. Anna Parker Naples is joining me live today, and Anna is a serial entrepreneur. She has an amazing story to share with us all, and she is a best-selling author, as I said, entrepreneur, visibility expert, and podcast trainer. So that she is really focusing on helping people get their voices out there, be seen and be heard, and helping them every step of the way. So Anna, welcome. I'm so glad that you're here today. Thank you for sharing your time with us.
Oh, you're welcome, Alison. It's a pleasure to be here.
So where are you coming in from today?
So I live in Bedfordshire, so in a town called Leighton Buzzard, approximately.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, 30 minutes from Euston, apparently, although it's often an hour commute or much longer if you're trying to come home on a Saturday. So
I can imagine. Or a Friday night even. Yeah, I've never been there, but I have heard of it. So there's lots of places that I haven't been. So I just want to talk to you about your life experience, where you have been, what you've been through, and where you're at now, because your journey is pretty incredible. And, you know, the purpose of our podcast are to inspire women to know that no matter where they are right now, there is always an opportunity and there is always chance for change. And you have been that transformational change in yourself. So talk to us about where it all started for you.
So there's two places that it started. The first one I'm going to tell you about is when it's 10 years ago on New Year's Eve, and I was dressed as the Little Britain character in a wheelchair by David Walliams' sketch show, if anyone knows that. I was the one in the wheelchair, and I actually was in a wheelchair, and I had to go to this New Year's Eve party because it was my best friend's engagement party as well, and I'd actually been told a week before to expect that I would never walk again as a result of a complication in pregnancy. And I hadn't got myself, I was in so much pain. I had symphysis pubis dysfunction, and it was the worst case that they'd ever seen in the UK. I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't move myself. I couldn't get in the shower. I couldn't wash myself. Going to the toilet was incredibly difficult. And I had to get to this party. And my parents and my husband, they knew how low I was, that they just wanted me out of the house to see some people and to have some normality. Mm-hmm. And so it was fancy dress, and everyone else was going as Batgirl, Wonder Woman, Spider Woman. You know, we're all in our 30s, so everyone's looking trim and great in these kind of funky outfits they've got going on. And my husband and I rock up as Lou and Andy from Little Britain. And I was wearing my filthy joggers that I'd actually slept in for about 3 weeks by that point, a filthy, dirty T-shirt, and it had this awful bald wig with these kind of ginger strands hanging down. I couldn't have looked worse if I tried, but it was to really make light of my awful situation. Yeah. Wow. And you know, I want to just say where I went next, and where I am currently. Yeah. So right now, just today, I have just posted a letter to David Walliams with a copy of my book, because obviously I was dressed as him. He gets mentioned in my book about that really dark, pivotal moment for me. Yeah. And the reason I sent him the letter was because yesterday my book was trending on all across Amazon and all of their social media. And the other book, 2 books that it was alongside, were his brand new bestsellers as well. So there was me right in the middle, and then his books either side. And so we decided that we would send him a letter and a copy of the book and a picture of me in my wheelchair dressed as his sketch show character.
That is incredible. I want to jump back onto a call with you and find out exactly what was said when he received it and what his thoughts and processes are. So,
well, I'll let you know.
Let's talk about that then, because that was a dark, dark place for you, and that was 10 years ago. So you were already a mum of 2 children at that time.
Yeah. So at that point, I was expecting my 3rd, and I had a 4-year-old who just started school. So even if it had been a year before, we could have managed. No one would have had to have left the house, but she was in school, so she had to be there every day. And I had a young toddler, so she was, at this point, what was she at Christmas? About 18 months old, something like that. And she was very independent. And all of a sudden I couldn't do anything. I wasn't allowed to hug them. I wasn't allowed to touch them because my everything around my pelvis became so fragile. And I was early days of being pregnant, and it was horrendous, absolutely horrendous.
So
and
how did you, that must have been so emotionally straining on you, as well as physically straining, to know that you've got these 2 little humans that needing mummy, wanting your affection, and a husband as well who's also wanting that affection, and then you in this we'd actually, what to do.
So several things. We'd just got married, and we'd had a turbulent relationship before then anyway, but we just got married. Our house had been flooded, and so we weren't even living at home at the time. And my 4-year-old had to become my carer.
Wow.
And it was really tough.
Wow. And so there's nobody else around you to help you?
My parents lived close by, but they were both working at the time. Okay. And some friends kind of ended up taking on a bit of a rota to come and look after me because I couldn't do anything. Mm-hmm. And it's times like that, times where you really have problems, that you do realise who your friends are and who they aren't. Yeah. And it's not always what you expect. Yeah. And I had a whole army of acquaintances who would bend over backwards and come and do anything for me. And then other people disappeared. And that was hard at the time.
Yeah, yeah. But it also, it's like you say, it kind of really shows you who you do need in your life, and then who you can remove from your life. And as hard as that seems at the time, then sometimes you just got to step that forward. So how was your little girl? You know, she was a carer at 4 years old.
It was really hard. And I remember her school, she had a wonderful reception teacher, wonderful woman. And they used to have these kind of play bags that went with any book that they had in class. And they used to get the play bag for the weekend. And this teacher put together, I don't know where she found them from, but she found this figure that had a Zimmer frame, because a figure that was in a wheelchair, and a little girl that had crutches to play with, and a tiny baby. And she basically had various toy characters that represented our family as it was at that moment. And she found books that had either a mother in a wheelchair or a child in a wheelchair, so that we could have those conversations about what was going on, and for her to explore what that meant. And that, for me at the time, I remember just being absolutely broken when the teacher made that to her. I can imagine. It was so touching.
But how amazing that teacher did that. That is come from a heart-centered space. That even makes me want to cry.
Yeah. God, I hadn't thought about that for a long time.
That is incredible.
Yeah, it was...
That is a really, really tough experience for all of you, and to know psychologically in that position that you've been told that you may never walk again.
Yeah, and I was an actor, and 5 years before, I'd been a stage actor, and I'd found out I was pregnant when I was playing Juliet, or just about to play Juliet, which would have been a career-making moment. And I found out I was pregnant the day before the first read-through, so I effectively lost my job. There was no way I could go on a 12-month tour pregnant. Wow. And so I'd always thought, once I'd had my children, because once I've had one, I might as well get the others out. Yeah. And, my plan had been, as soon as this baby had been born, and they were, at preschool or whatever, that I would be going back on stage. And I didn't know what that would look like, but that was always what I wanted to do. I just had this vision. I was supposed to be speaking on stage.
Had you known that since you were a little girl?
I'd known that since I was 5. I'd
Wow.
known that since I was 5, that I was supposed to be speaking on stage. And it's all in my book, which we'll come to in a minute.
I know. So exciting.
And so I'm in this situation where not only do I feel like I gave up my career to have my children, albeit my choice, but there's a level of resentment that comes with that as a mother.
Okay.
And now at the point where I'm almost ready to return to it, my whole life has been whisked away from me. Not only can I not be an actor on stage in the way that I wanted, I now can't be the kind of mum I want to be. I'm very energetic. I can't do any of the things that I want to do. And we just got married as well. And like, you don't imagine your married life right at the start of your married life that you're not going to walk and you're going to be struggling with, all of a sudden my husband, we went from literally, we'd come back off honeymoon, we'd had this wonderful summer, and then I can't get into the shower and I can't wash my hair on my own. That was tough.
That's tough. That is tough. With 2 small children, that's tough enough with just the 2 of you. It's tough enough with you just by yourself. But with 2 small children, another one on the way, then your mind must have been thinking all sorts of things. So can you tell me what, and I know that everybody listening would love to know, because even me now, I'm trying to visualize that, and, with 2 children, and my story is nothing like that, but I was told that I would never run again, and running's my life. Running's like where my headspace is. And I was told that I needed surgery and I would never run again. And I was like, oh my God. Unfortunately for me, I was only on crutches for a very short space of time. But how did you manage to come out of the David Williams scenario?
So I knew at that party that I just had to hold myself together. That's how I felt until the baby was born. And once baby was born, I felt like a different person, because I felt like that waiting period was over. Yeah. And I felt that now at this point, I had to make peace and accept that I was going to be disabled for the rest of my life. And I decided I'd go and see a hypnotherapist. So this is several months later, when baby's maybe 6 months old, maybe a bit younger, maybe a bit older rather. And I decided to go and see a hypnotherapist because I knew that had worked for me for some stress-related things in the past. And it was really just to feel better and to make peace with it. Yeah. And I sort of had in the back of my head that life could be okay in a wheelchair, because I was being treated at Stoke Mandeville Hospital, which is where people with far worse, like they were literally paralysed. People then went on to have sort of superhuman feats and be in the Paralympics. That's where they trained. And so, I did have this kind of model that maybe there's some way it's going to be okay, but I've got to feel okay first. And I went for this NLP, this hypnosis session, and it was the first time I had NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, which is essentially a conversation where you're going in and out of trance and your unconscious mind and all sorts of stuff. And it was the first time anyone said to me, have you listened to your words and your language? Have you listened to how often you're saying you're stuck and you're angry and you're resentful? And that you've always felt overlooked in your career? Have you listened to the fact that you are always saying how limited you are? And it was just like this massive light bulb moment of, oh my goodness, not only am I always talking about how down I am and how stuck I am and how frustrated I am because of the physical stuff and the pain, but I've also been saying this for years about my career. And it was just like these just massive moments of awakening kind of happening. And we went home. I went home and I said to my husband, I'm not going to talk about pain anymore. I'm going to tell you once that I'm healing, and that will be your cue to go and tell everybody else what needs to happen. Because what would happen previously is I would go and I'd say, oh, I'm so sorry. I feel so bad. I'm really sore today. I'm in agony and it's always so bad. And then I'd be, I can't do anything for the children and it's so bad that I can't. And I'm so, and just constantly over and over. It's all I would talk about. And same if I saw my parents, if I saw
built in your subconscious. It's built in your subconscious, so you believe it.
So it's not, but it was true. To a certain extent, and it was true, but that had become my only awareness. So what this chap said to me was, what happens if you stop talking about it? And to me, I was like, well, what else will I talk about? I've got nothing else. And he said, well, okay, so what happened when you were watching, what do you watch on TV? And I was like, well, at the moment I watch all of the awful This Morning and Jeremy Kyle. And he was like, okay, when you were watching Jeremy Kyle yesterday morning, tell me what happened. And I said, well, what happened? And he said, well, were you thinking about pain at that moment? And it was like, no, I wasn't. I was thinking about
light bulb moment.
So my attention has been elsewhere. So he said, so, okay, so you came in here telling me you were always in pain.
Mm-hmm.
And now you've told me that you have moments where you're not aware that you're in pain. So which one is it? And it was just amazing. So I went home and I changed my language, and I asked my husband not to allow me to speak about it. And I was only allowed to talk about my pain in terms of healing. And I'm having a healing day, and that is it. And then I had to shut up. Mm-hmm. I even had to say to my parents, thank you so much for all your love and support, but please do not ask me how I am.
That's tough. That's a really tough thing.
I think they were pretty, because they didn't know.
Yeah.
They were doing their best to help me.
Uh-huh.
But within 3 weeks, I was back using a Zimmer frame.
After being in a chair for all that time.
And then within 6 weeks, I was doing the school run.
So tell me, did you have physiotherapy during this time as well as the hypnosis, or was it a combination?
I had some I actually gave up with the physio. I had something called cranial osteopathy, but on my pelvis, because I couldn't cope with any touching or big adjustments. So they decided to use that technique.
Okay.
But it was how I thought about myself that made the difference. 100%.
And so how many sessions did this take before you had that awakening? Or was it just that first one? Was like
that first one? I had one session.
So what was your process there after? Obviously, you've already spoken to your parents, you've spoken to your husband.
What he'd said to me and what he pointed out about my language was so earth-shattering, and I was desperate for it to work. I was desperate for life to get better, and I'd seen in that moment this could change things, but not because I thought I'd recover, but because I thought I could feel better. And
that's
so for me, healing at that point meant feeling glowy.
Yes.
That I can walk.
Yes.
But that life can be better. So happiness, perhaps. And so the knock-on effect with that then was that I'm still laid up most of the time, because it's not like I went from wheelchair, Zimmer frame, I'm bouncing around.
Yeah.
It was still a long recovery, even though there was then recovery. So the other thing that happened was in that session, he really challenged, well, what are you saying about being an actor, earning money and being a good mother? Like, why don't these things exist together for you? Yeah. And I was saying, well, they're complete opposites. And he's like, well, what if they weren't? What if there are other ways you can have all of these things together? And I kept saying, no, they can't. He said, but that's your limitation. So in this time, once I'd seen that I was starting to heal and starting to feel better, and I've not got all of this sorry saga to repeat on the loop over and over again, I then was like, so this is working. And what could I do? What could I do with my skills, my talents, the fact that I'm great with my voice, the fact that I'm really passionate about performing? What could I do and be at home with the kids? And a really bizarre thing happened. So in my earlier acting career, I'd done some quite high profile voiceover jobs. And one was for CBeebies and for CITV, all the children's channels. But I'd never really thought about it. And at that time, I'd sent off these god-awful CDs with a very stern picture of me with my standard 10:8 actor headshot, looking very serious. I'd sent off these CDs, and I'd never heard anything back to various places. This woman rang me when my dad was with me, and I was on the way to the hospital. That was the only time I was leaving the house at this point. And she rang me to say, oh, my client wants to book you. Can you come in later this week? And I said, no. And my dad was like, what was that? What have you just said no to? And I said, well, I can't go and do that job because I'm in too much pain. And he said, you're doing it again. And he said, ring them back. We're getting you there. And in the end, my dad and my husband drove me and carried me in. Yeah. And while everyone else went for lunch, I sat and talked to the engineer. And the engineer said, oh, because I've not told them that anything was wrong. Yeah. Because I felt very ashamed of how things really were. The engineer said, well, you do know you can do this remotely. The technology had changed since I'd been a young actor. Mm-hmm. Look, you could have done this. You could do this from home if you had a good microphone and the right equipment. So that was it.
Wow.
That just set me off on this path to learning while I was still in bed, learning everything about editing, audio, microphones. I was a complete technophobe as well. I learned everything about marketing, and I set myself up as a voiceover artist. And within 3 months, I was working for some of the top companies in the world.
That's incredible, Anna. That's really, really incredible. And all of this while you've got a small baby, and that just that one visit, if you had not, and this is what, if you'd not gone to see that man, that NLP coach, that amazing transformational awakening, and to take you into a conscious state, then where would you be? And guys, I can see Anna on video now. You can't. Her setup is like something out of a movie. She has all the equipment and really does know what she's doing. And
so, the room I'm in is it used to be our airing cupboard, and it's covered now with all of the padding and the special foam. And it's a professional studio.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It was the only room in the house that fitted the wheelchair. That's why it was created like that. That's where I'm speaking from now.
So tell me, this is like, we fast forwarded to where we are now, and this was all 10 years ago. So you have 3 daughters.
I have two daughters and a son.
2 daughters and a son. So we fast forward kind of 10 years. You've made this incredible transformation from that one visit, where even your father and your husband have changed their language to bring you up rather than keep you in that space of, oh, kitty me, I'm never going to be anything. And, so how do you feel day to day now? Physically?
Great. Physically, I'm completely recovered. And this was, you asked me, where did the journey start? So in terms of what I do now, the journey started 3 years ago last week. So where that story ended with the voiceover was that after I'd recovered and I was then very successful doing commercials and all sorts of things, I then realised I wanted to perform. Like, it was important to me to be using words in a powerful storytelling way. So I then focused on doing audiobook narration, and I narrated a lot of international bestsellers in the US, all from home, all whilst here to pick up the kids. Was earning a lot of money, much more than most of my counterparts, certainly in the UK and definitely in the US. And I was on the red carpet in Hollywood, in LA, because I was up for my 7th award as a performer for outstanding performance. And I had this moment literally on the red carpets in LA. I live in Bedfordshire, near the woods, and I do a school run. And I'm standing there thinking, this is insane. I'm wearing the most cracking pair of high heels I've ever worn.
And you have some amazing shoes.
I have some amazing shoes.
I've seen them.
and what is this? There's so much to what I've uncovered, what I've done, what I've achieved. And only a few years ago, I was in the depths of despair. So what is this all about? And it was at that point I decided I wanted to help people to get more visible, to understand what's going on for them. And the bigger piece that I unraveled, lots of my mindset stuff, because by this point I'd trained in NLP as a Master NLP practitioner and a Master of Hypnosis. I've really got to grips with my language, with other people's language. I realized that for me, I'd been hiding because of things that had happened to me when I was much younger. And I'd been sabotaging my own results, which is why my language had been about limitation, being stuck, being overlooked. And
it's funny because I hear you say, because we hadn't spoken about that before, but when you mentioned your NLP coach at that time had said your limiting beliefs about your work, that you can't have everything in alignment, you're never going to be that successful, you're never going to be this or that and the other. So you'd already started that, like you say, from a very early age. And we're not going to cover that right now because I think we would be on here for a long time. I think what's important to remember, and for everybody to remember, is it doesn't matter, that darkest place, you can get out of that darkest place, and you can see the light. And it is about changing your language. You can heal your body, you can heal your mind. And I think you are just testimony to that. So, we've got 7 Hollywood nominations. You're doing amazingly. And then this 3 years ago, you said this is where it kind of really changed for you. So talk us through that.
So at that point, I knew that I wanted as many people as possible. I didn't want to, although I coach people in one-on-one, I actually really wanted to help people really put themselves out there, because that's essentially what I had then done. I'd uncovered myself and stopped saying that my talents didn't matter. And I'm really, I want to say push, but it wasn't push, propelled, stood out, because I felt more like me than I ever had. And by this point, I was coaching lots of people here and in the US who are really, really talented creatives. But I knew that my message was for more than the kind of voice acting community. I knew it was more than that. So
coaching
I came
them on what? Coaching on mindset?
So I was coaching them on how to have business success.
Okay.
By having the mindset success to get out there. Okay. So I coach people on the mindset and the strategies to get ahead in whatever industry they're in.
Fantastic.
But I didn't know that's quite what I was doing back then, because it's as a coach, you have all these skills, but how do you make it unique and how do you make it yours? So I came into the online development space, personal development space, and I launched a business focused on mums, because that felt like a really part of my story, like how I'd felt about not being able to have what I wanted as a mum. Mm-hmm. And I did that for about 18 months, and I won loads of awards for it, some very high profile awards alongside celebrities, and I was on stages speaking my own words for the first time, but I wasn't quite getting the message right. And I had a moment about a year and a half ago where I knew that I just had to rebrand so that it's all me, all my business is my name. And it's not for mums, it's for entrepreneurs, it's for creatives, it's for coaches, it's for people who just want to be more, to do more, to have more impact in the world.
It's funny you say that, because I'm just going to step on that right now, because, as coaches, when we have coaches, we're always being told, narrow your niche, narrow your niche, narrow your niche. But you knew that there was more than just mums, because, you were a mum, you were in that situation, but there's so many more people out there who also need your talent, skills, and coaching.
So my niche then, I suppose, is the fact that I coach people in the visibility. Yeah. So that's still niching, because that's not the message that other coaches are putting out there.
And what I mean is, it's not just directly to mums.
No, not anymore. I coach people all around the world. I've got a lot of men that I coach as well. And I have played with this. Is it for female entrepreneurs? Is it more? But my story is just too big. Yeah. And I don't want to limit myself anymore. So you shouldn't. And that's one of the things that I think so many more women need to understand, that they don't need to have those limitations. Not limiting beliefs, but limitations. They don't need to put a glass ceiling on everything, because they can. Interestingly, so my book didn't win the competition for the book proposal that I'd put it in for, which was about a year ago. I didn't win that competition. And the feedback I had from that publisher was that my book wouldn't sell, because nobody will be wanting to buy from an entrepreneur or a creative who didn't have hundreds of thousands of followers and wasn't a billionaire, and that I should reconsider my readership for when I wrote my book. And so I have to say, it's been quite a sweet moment this week that my book's got into number 1 in 11 categories across Amazon this week.
That is incredible.
So they were wrong. Incredible. I was right.
So, we're skipping through so many different decades and years and everything to get to where you are now. And that 3 years, was it 3 years ago when you started to do your NLP masters and the changing of everything?
I finished those 3 years ago. I finished them, and I guess it took me about 2 and a bit years to do that training, and that was going alongside my voice acting career. But I had no plans to do anything with it whatsoever. I was just doing it because it fascinated me. Yeah, the more I did, the more it changed me, the more I woke up to what I can do, my potential. And it was going hand in hand with the success I was then having in Hollywood, which still feels bizarre to say that, because I'm a mum who does the school run.
So I think it's incredible. It's incredible, because I'm looking at you face to face, and I know that you're in Leighton Buzzard, and I can see you in this kind of teeny tiny room, but it all looks so professional. And when you keep referring back to Hollywood, it's like, wow, she's incredible. And, guys, I know many of you may have not have met Anna, but she is an incredible soul. She's so heart-centered. She has so much passion for everything that she does and everybody that's around her. And, to get to where she is right now is incredible. The book is launched on Friday. It's already gone number 1.
It actually came out last week, so it's already out in the world.
Friday,
paperback and ebook, and the audio book is due to, which I've narrated, which was the weirdest thing, narrating my own story about my journey. That's coming out any day now. Yeah, so it's called Get Visible, How to Have More Impact, Influence and Income. And it's a real kind of journey through my mindset. And I've been very, very raw and open and honest about how I used to see the world. And that's a very vulnerable, courageous thing to do. That doesn't come easily. But it's having that, I want this to change lives.
How did you manage to remove judgment when you were being vulnerable? Because that can come about as well. We can sit there and judge ourselves if we're putting vulnerability out there. Should I not? Who's going to think this? Who's going to think that? How did you manage to remove judgment when you were doing it? Or did you?
It's one I'm probably coming to terms with. I talk a lot about imposter syndrome, and imposter syndrome doesn't necessarily go, but you can manage it.
Yeah.
So on the one hand, I feel that I know my story has the potential to change lives, and I know it does. On the other hand, with it being promoted alongside Gary Vee and Alan Sugar and David Walliams this week, it's a little bit mind-blowing. However, I feel as though the things that have happened to me have real meaning if I get out there and I am seen and I'm heard. And it's not for me, not from an egotistical perspective, but because there's real power in my message and what I've been through.
Yeah,
and that makes it okay. I think the thing that I am aware of is that some of my story is very personal, and that means it's personal for my family and my husband and my children and potentially my parents as well. And there is I did have to write the book mindful of that. So it's not, you can't, I think when you're writing something about your own story, you can't just let everything out, because it's not just me and my story to tell.
Yeah. And I just want to touch on that, because we are talking about the book, and the book is incredible. I'm going to come back to imposter syndrome in a second. But you said you're sharing your story for everybody else. Now, when we spoke before offline, you know, as an actress, a stage actress, what was it you said to me about being on stage?
So I said to you, I'd known since I was 5 that I wanted to be on stage, that I was supposed to be speaking on stage, that was what my gift was, that's what my talent was. At that point, I thought that was being in the RSC, in the Royal Shakespeare Company. But now I realise it's because I was probably always going to be a motivational speaker in some way. But I didn't know that even existed as a thing. But what I said is that when I was at drama school, or even younger than that, one of the things that, you know, Lovey says, it's not the actor, it's about the play. And I always used to think, no, it's not. It's about me being up there. And my early acting career was very ego-driven. And I talk about this a lot, very ego-driven. It's all about me, what I could get out of it, how I could push, how I could prove that I was enough and good enough. And actually, I don't feel like that about the work I'm doing now. It's much more congruent. I feel like my work now is for other people. Of course, it's for me. There has to be some level of ego. That ego is not necessarily a bad thing. But actually getting this message out could transform so many people's lives. And what happens to the world when we all realize that we have thoughts, we have choice over our thoughts, words and language.
Absolutely.
Now that's not mean what I don't mean to say is that overnight you can just make things better. You can choose to become aware of your thoughts and the actions that you're taking in your life. Anyone can do that.
And I just want to touch on that, because you said that you have a story to share, you do, but that one person changed your life, and through the power of him changing your life, you're about to step into thousands of people's lives and make a huge difference and impact. So, you know, from that egotistical, no, it's all about me, thank you for being all about me, because it's allowed you to now share it with so many people. Yeah. Whereas if you just stayed in that egotistical point, you probably wouldn't, and you wouldn't be where you are. So.
I think part of that egotistical thing is part of the story I've not even got a chance to go into, but part of that egotistical thing was driven by fear. And driven by the fact that I'm not good enough. And what happens actually when you take the brakes off and say, you know what, I am good enough, and I deserve to be wherever I want to be, because I'm human and it's all right to be imperfect. Yes. And that for me is actually one of the biggest things about becoming visible. The biggest thing is about being imperfect. And I think it's okay to be human.
Yeah, and
I think choice over how you think.
Totally. And I think we have to focus on the fact that we are human beings. So we need to be human. It's human being as opposed to human doing. We can't be just doing. We have to get congruent and, you know, really align with who we are, what we are, and why we are here, what we're put here for. And sometimes that deepest, darkest journey can seem like we're never going to get out of it until we literally do have a light bulb moment. And that could be somebody saying one word, or you just doing one thing, or a book falling at you, or, you know, all of these different things. Yours was quite traumatic and could have been life-changing and also life-threatening, but you've managed to make a story that can inspire, encourage, and help others on a grander scale, which is incredible. Can I just bring you back to the point where you said about imposter syndrome? Can you give 3 top tips for those that are listening, for women who probably are feeling in the fear, who do have that, recycled voice saying, I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough. What 3 top tips could you give to them?
Oh, it's such a big topic.
But 3.
I journal every day. I do stream of consciousness journaling every day. Mm-hmm. 1, that gets all the thoughts out, dealt with, and I don't have to say them out loud. Yeah. 2, it helps me. I'm going to say 1, 2, and 3, and there's probably going to be loads more. There might be loads of numbers here. The second one is then I notice those bad things that I've said about myself. Mm-hmm. I notice what my language is. And then the third thing is that I can then change the language. So after I've journaled, I change that language to whatever awful statement I've made about myself. I'm stupid, or I'm always this, or I'm always that. I will literally write that out 5 times as a complete opposite, something that is beneficial, that supports me, an I am or I have statement. Amazing. And so they're really powerful because your subconscious follows orders. Yeah. So if the order you're giving it is I am stupid and I always mess things up, that is literally what your subconscious is going to grab from your filing cabinet. Because, but if you start to tell this new story that I am capable, I am clever, I can achieve, then it's, over time, as you say that to yourself, your subconscious, you are literally reprogramming it to show you and support you the information that shows you that you are clever, you can do, and you do achieve. And for me, this goes beyond the law of manifestation or law of attraction. It's actually what's happening in your brain and how you sort that language. Yeah,
I totally am with you. I love law of attraction, but I think the linguistic programming is so much more important, because if we believe that we cannot or can't, which is most people's language, I can't, until you believe that you can't. When you change that programming to I can, I will, or I don't want to, is completely different, because you're again removing those limiting beliefs. I love that. So this must take a long time in the morning. Is it kind of, this is your morning routine and nothing happens until that?
I would say 20 minutes every morning, cup of tea, write journal. And I can tell if I go for like maybe half a week where I've not done it, my thoughts do start to go wonky. They do. And so as soon as I'm having a bit of a wobble, I need to go back to the page. I need to get my thoughts out. What am I saying? What am I saying about myself? Sorry?
Is this in the book?
It's in the book. This is in the book.
Fantastic. So people can get hold of that and understand that as well. Yeah. So this is your 20 minutes. So, when we look back and you think, oh my God, I'm in a wheelchair, I can't move, I can't walk, I can't even get in the shower, I can't wash my own hair. And your life is completely different. But how do you value your health, your well-being, and your life today in comparison to then?
I feel this real hunger and desire and drive to get my message out into the world. And one of the impacts of that is that I don't always look after myself in the best way that I can. Mm-hmm. And part of that is because I said I wanted to lead the fullest life that I wanted to live. And for me, that was getting my message out into the world. That I feel like that's very much my purpose. Mm-hmm. I walk my dog every day. So the exercise has to happen. Mm-hmm. I am terrible for going through periods where I exercise intensely and I'm really committed, and then something will happen with my work and something more exciting and appealing is happening with work. And so I'll knock that off. Mm-hmm. So I know I could be better with my health and with my diet. But I am every day, and this is one of the things I journal about, I am so grateful for my body. I am so grateful that I can walk. I am so grateful that I can run. And I do run quite often with the dog. Often dog walking time is when I will have a run. But I am grateful that my body moves. And I don't forget that. And someone said to me, why do you keep going on about what happened to you back then now that you're better? And I think it's because, one, there's a great story in it because I'm using it to empower other people. But 2, it's because it reminds me not to take everything for granted. And I'm not perfect. I could improve my diet. I could improve my exercise. But we only get to live in this body once.
Exactly. And we only have one.
Be appreciative of it.
And you just said there's no perfection. There isn't perfect. What does perfect look like? I think as long as you know the health, if you're walking the dog every day, that's brilliant. We're talking about living your vibrant life. You've gone from being in a wheelchair to, being a Hollywood nominated actress for all this, that, and the other. You're now going to be up for awards for the book, so that is, when you talk about your health, it's not just about what you eat and how you exercise. It's about how you are living. It's that nourishment that you're getting, that enrichment from life. And, you've got 3 amazing children, a husband, you have that support system there. But, you have to remember, when you look at you now, everybody can see this gloss. And what's
interesting
sharing
about that is that I do share. So, for example, I've just had an incredible book launch week, and I've been very open about the fact that I have been on an emotional roller coaster. I've been high, I've been low, I've been on the floor crying, I've been high as a kite. And I one of the things I really, as someone very energetic as well, I have to really watch my energy levels. And I have to be mindful in the kind of coaching business I'm in. If I do lives in the evening, I don't come down till about 2:00 in the morning. So that then has an effect. So I have to really stop and think, yes, there's so much I want to do to get my message out there, but I have to look after myself and my family too.
Yeah.
And I'm learning those things. And I am very open that all this stuff, all the motivational speaking I do here, there and everywhere in the book, and it doesn't come easily. It comes because I make a choice to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing, is making the choice. It's like making that choice too. You are journaling, but you know what? I'm going to take it, but the dog's out, and I'm going to take that time to be out in the fresh air. And I'm going to take that time to, you don't necessarily have to be doing HIIT training or yoga or Pilates. It's moving your body and it's feeling connected. And it is, making sure that you have boundaries for your energy, to make sure that you can be on your game for your business, for your family and everything else. And I think what you're doing is incredible. I can't wait to get the paperback version of the book. I'm not good on Kindle and ebooks. I want it in my hand.
I like
to be able to read it. So I'm waiting for that to arrive here in Austria. And I just can't wait to see the journey with this, not just for yourself and your family, but all of the people's lives that you're going to touch and change, from being brave enough to get it on paper and to get it into print. So, for that, you have to give yourself a huge pat on the back, or go for a run and celebrate.
Yeah, go for the dog walk. Take the dog out.
Go for the dog walk. So I'm just so thrilled that you've been here to share with people that they can literally do anything at the flick of a switch, the flick of a decision, and creating a better life for themselves.
But it's making that decision every day with every conversation. And don't get me wrong, I still say some rubbish, but I'll catch myself saying it.
That's the thing. It's catching yourself and understanding when you've said that language. I work with clients and I'm like, okay, can we go back and you reread what you have just said in your notes, and then change that language? And it is changing that language. And, when we're positivity coaches or happiness coaches or vibrant coaches, we all have to save and reserve our own energy as well. We still have to look after ourselves to when you look at somebody on screen or on a Facebook Live, it's like, oh my God, they're always so energetic. It takes time, it takes patience, it takes being congruent, and it takes balance. And it also means that you have to really look after your energy, whether that's through food, exercise, sleep, and also being in a place where you're in your happiest state doing what you do. So what is the name of the book again? Remind everybody.
The book is called Get Visible: How to Have More Impact, Influence and Income.
I love it. And you also have something else coming out in the new year that I'm sure you may want to share with everybody.
So I will be I'm helping people to get their messages out there. Right now, podcasts are absolutely booming. As you know, if you're listening to Alison's podcast today, I actually also have my own podcast, Entrepreneurs Get Visible, which reached number 3 globally when it was released a few months ago. And so listen to that, Entrepreneurs Get Visible. But I am releasing a podcast membership in January to help people be, first of all, amazing guests. There is an art to it. There are ways you can improve to help them get their own podcast out there, understanding the planning, the launch strategy, the technical stuff about it. That obviously comes easily to me because of my years of background in audio. And also then how to monetize, how to make sure this works for your business, because there's no point in my book having a podcast that is just out there on a limb if it's not building the thing that you love. So I'm going to help people podcast with impact.
I love that. So where can they follow you?
So they can follow me. I'm on Facebook a lot at Anna Parker Naples Coach. If you look for me there, Instagram, Anna Parker Naples. I'm on LinkedIn. Best place really is to go over to my website, annaparkernaples.com. That's got all the links to my podcast, all the links to my book, and you will be able to find out there about the podcast launch of the membership when it goes live.
Fantastic. That's happening in January?
Hopefully. We're just getting all the book launch is taking a lot more energy than I'd expected. So
I'm sure it is. And it went out early, so I'm sure that there's things going on. So guys, that's where you can get hold of Anna, and I hope you've enjoyed listening as much as I have interviewing her. She's an amazing person in person and on screen and everywhere else that you can find her. So do you have any top tips that you want to share with anybody before we go?
So become aware of your language. And in terms of the visibility for your, if you are in business, let people know what you do. So many people get scared about talking about what they do. It's not egotistical to say you're good at something. So get that confidence to get out there. They're my tips.
I love that. Thank you so much, guys. I'm going to drop the handles in the comments in the iTunes and in the Podbean where you can get hold of them, and head on over and please support Anna with her new book. It's going to be fantastic. Well, it is fantastic. I just need to get my hands on it. And read the story. So thank you so much for being here, and good luck with the launch of the membership, and good luck with the rest of the book launch, which is still in its very early infancy. And I can't wait to hear what happens with David Williams. Thanks, darling.
Thank you.
So I want to say a huge thank you so much for tuning in to this podcast. I really am so grateful for all of you. We are so grateful for all of you that are tuning in, and that if you feel that you have got value from this podcast, if you feel that there's so much more that you want to hear, then please do go over to iTunes, leave a review, and share this episode with some of your best friends or people you know would also really get value from it. We only grow through you, and we're only here because of you. We want you to know that each and every woman out there, we are supporting you, we have your back, and we really want to bring you as much value as possible. So from all of us here at Vibrant Balanced Health, we want to say thank you so much for listening to us today. Your honesty is so important, and we really just want to help more and more women live their more vibrant life and create impact. And that only happens with your support and with your connection to share this message with thousands of women. So thank you so much for stopping in. And if you feel called to, please do hop on over, leave a review, say hi, leave your comments, let us know what you'd like to hear more of, and we will be sure to bring you even more value over and over again.